Welcome back to our own devices. And this time we have a company you have all heard about for sure. And I'm sure a lot of you have actually tried your handset. So we have Amit Sharma, who is the CTO of Dream Sports, the company behind Dreams 11 and a lot of other things. But Amit, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am happy to be here.
Amit, this is a company everybody, as I said, like knows about. It's out there. A lot of people, millions of people, have played the games. Have set up their dream teams. So, how many users do you have right now?
So we have more than 13 crore registered users,
13
and
crore.
yes, currently, and we get like around 30 to 40 million users on a monthly basis to come during peak times of IPL, etc., to come to our platform and play the game.
So it's actually busy season for you right now, right? Like this is it, like IPL.
Absolutely. IPL is the time of the year where we all keep waiting, we keep working on our systems and get them ready, right? With all the new features, stability, everything, and there's the maximum engagement with the product, and a lot of people come and play. This is the busiest time of the yes, peak season for us.
So Amit, while yours is a very easy app, which even anybody who's not at all tech savvy can understand, use, and that is behind your success. But I'm sure there is a lot of high tech that goes behind an easy app. So can you explain a little bit of how you do it? What kind of scale you have without getting into the jargon, please.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what happens is when you build a app of any kind for a small set of users, even if it's a fantasy sports platform like ours, it's very easy to do in the first go. But when as you keep adding scale, and by scale I mean more and more users come to your platform and start using it, right? So for example, we have a peak concurrency, which is the number of people on the app at the same time, of 5.5 million. So when you have so many people come to the app at the same time and trying to uh, edit their teams or join contests or add money to their wallet and engage with the app, that's when it gets very, very challenging. So then you have to like have a very large scale, we call it distributed systems. What that means is like every part of the app, be it like your login and registration, your homepage, your contests, your leaderboard, and then the social features everything is actually powered by a completely different system behind the scene. And to run this app at scale, there is a 300 plus strong engineering team that works very, very hard and make sure that all these systems are up and running, and they integrate very, very well together to give the end user a cohesive experience, so that they don't know what's happening behind the scenes. And one of the biggest advantages of building a system like this is that if some portions of your app or some systems fail, the rest of the app doesn't get affected. For example, if there is an issue with one of the games, right, and then you cannot join the contest, but at least all the other games that you already joined contest, you can still look at your leaderboard, keep engaging with the app from that perspective. So we try to minimize disruptions from that angle, but there's a lot of complex systems behind the scenes to actually run an app like this at scale.
If I understand right, it is also sandboxed in a way, right? Something going wrong in one part of the app does not affect the other, but it also helps you keep the entire stress distributed, right?
Absolutely. It's easier to manage, right? So I can divide my teams accordingly and then be like, there are each set of team, which we call like, we divide our team into dream teams or mini clubs, we call it internally. It's a set of people, right? It could be like tech, but they also work very closely with product and design, for example, right? And data. So all of them will work together on a certain portion of the app, so that in a nice decentralized way, we can have different teams improve different systems of the app. And so we get a lot of velocity in parallel, and because of the decentralization, it becomes a very nice bottom up philosophy of working, where different teams, they come up with ideas and figure out how they can improve their own system. So overall the app keeps getting better.
I remember about a decade ago, at the times when we had a certain amount of traffic, and when something happened and the traffic would go 3x, 4x, the entire website, for instance, would crash, right? Or we would call up people, beforehand that, okay, tomorrow we are expecting a jump in traffic, so be prepared. So these days, I understand that you're playing for scale, you're going for 5.5 million, that kind of a range. But are there still, days when you are like, okay, okay, we did not expect this to be this big, or this feature to get a lot of attention. So, are you still challenged once in a while?
um, Not really, but we've actually made our mistakes while getting to this point, right? So this was the biggest challenge, right? So there are two parts to it, right? One is uh, identifying as to what kind of traffic do we expect in a certain day, That's one piece of it, right? And that's where initially we went with some basic estimates, because we were also growing 3 to 4x every year. So we also did not know what happens with us is, because the peak season is IPL to IPL. So we get a peak traffic in IPL, and then we have organic growth during the year, and then the next IPL, a lot of users come back. So the first match of the next IPL is always at a very different scale than what's happened in the last few months. So we need to always anticipate that traffic. So that's part one. And second is, okay, now you've anticipated, but how do you scale up your systems, right? And that's where AWS helps, right? We are on Amazon completely, so they have a flexible cloud, so we can add more
Fantastic.
capacity. So that part is not that difficult, but we've become very good at predicting the kind of traffic now, right? We have data science algorithms that actually work, and up till like an accuracy of around plus minus 10% can predict as to what kind of traffic we are going to get. So this challenge, but it's been a hard journey. I mean, we've taken our time, but now we are very confident of that expectations. And more of that, most of the times, if we do have an issue, it's because of some system malfunctioning or a human error of some sorts. But most of the times, we are no longer caught by surprise by the kind of traffic or user traction that we actually receive.
The other thing I wanted to understand is that even though you guys are identified primarily with teams, but it's also something you play with a bunch of other sports also, right? So how did that evolution come along? Did making one fantasy theme in case of one sport, did that help you with the others, or did you have to sort of deconstruct it for each sport?
So the majority of the engine remains the same, right? So you see, when it comes to expanding to other sports, at Dream Sports, our motto is to make sports better, right? So obviously, cricket is the focus everywhere. So we also do that as well. But over a period of time, we want to, expose our users to other sports, make them, fall in love with those other sports as well. So that's the from the strategic perspective. That's why we kept adding sports. But from the systems perspective, the engine remains the same. And if you build the engine correctly, the only thing that differs between each sport is the kind of teams that you create, the kind of point system that the players will get when they actually play. So those are pieces which are more of a like a plug-in kind of a model. So we can just take those systems out and like plug them for a particular sport. As far as saying, like, today, if we have to actually launch a new sport completely from scratch, it just takes us 3 to 4 days. So
Wow.
in 3 to 4 days, we can take a sport, study it, create a point calculation system, write the logic, plug it in, test it, and go live with it. And we've actually done it. Last year when COVID hit, we actually introduced a couple of sports, and we were able to do that within a few days.
Also, you are catering to a predominantly mobile audience, who are in the smartphone space. Their expectations also, even the smartphone companies are now saying that their expectations are too much, like they want the camera to be 2x better in every 6 months, like so are you also challenged by that like people want it to be faster, they want more features, or they are bombarding you with requests ki aise karo waise karo, how do you tackle something like that?
Actually, thankfully, it's a good thing that people are so passionate about Dream 11. So our users are, they engage with us on social media all the time. That's why the standards are very, very high. Even like a couple of minutes of outage in the app at the wrong time can actually, affect the users, and they actually come and express themselves on Twitter, etc. So yes, there is constantly. So we have customer success channels where people either send us ideas about the kind of winner distribution that we do, the kind of templates that we have, or whenever we launch a feature, they give us feedback on the feature as to how can we actually give different features. Then promotions is one common thing, right? A lot of users want different kind of promotions. So yes, we constantly get feedback from users, and we have a system in place to make sure we prioritize. We are a user first is one of our core values, so we make sure that we listen to our users, right? And constantly keep an eye on what they're demanding, prioritize things as fast as we can internally, and do whatever we can.
As you said, user first, being user first, also in the space that you are in, is also seeing, analyzing analytics and understanding how things are working, and I remember a few years ago when Rovio was really big with Angry Birds, the founder had told me that actually the learning, or how you start working on an app, it starts the moment you actually launch the app, and then you see the analytics and you keep on improving based on where people's UI UX is actually, it's not going the way you have wanted it to. So is that the kind of learning you guys also had? And are you constantly improving? Did you have interesting instances where people did not understand a certain feature that you have added, and you have had to improve that and things like that?
Yeah, it happens from time to time. Like, so let me give you a couple of examples of how we use analytics internally to actually improve the product, right? So let's take an example. So recently, last year, we added a for you section. It's a personalized section on top of the contest screen. Now, to actually create that screen, we need to be confident that we are able to identify the contests that people actually care about and want to join, right? So to do that, we have like years of data of our users that we constantly, feed into different models, try different things, then launch it as a small experiment to see what kind of accuracy we get, and then we scale it up. So within like a year, we are able to get to a point where more than 80% of the contest joins that actually happen from that screen happen from the recommended section. So that's a validation of like we are actually using the data in the correct way. On the other hand, of all the contests, there was a time where every single contest almost was actually created manually into our system, and this was like when the number of users were less, number of matches were less. But obviously at that time we recognized that this is not the right way to do it, and we will not be able to scale. So again, we started running, creating a machine learning algorithm that started to learn how all of this works. Now today we have thousands and thousands of matches and millions of contests. A smallest contest is 2 member in size. A largest contest could be like 8 million in size. All of these contests are completely automated and generated by our contest generation engine, right? And it predicts to the T of exactly the what kind of traffic to expect, how many users will come, and and then based on that puts on the supply. So these are all examples of like, so personalization was the first one, contest generation. We also use our data systems to actually make sure it's fair play, right? So no one is like taking advantage of other users, not taking advantage of our promotions, right? So we call it fair play violation. So we try to keep that to the minimum as well. So yes, and when it comes to using analytics to prioritize, right? So whenever we have different teams and they have so many options, we have a very small engineering team, right? 300 people. So we need to figure out what we can do and what we cannot do. So that choice itself also actually relies on data. So we look at the data of each and everything, and based on that, it helps us prioritize, and we prioritize the features which we believe have the maximum impact for users.
As we discussed IPL, you have something really big happening every year. It's not happening in a pattern in the past couple of years, but it's happening. So how do you prepare for the IPL? How do you think of new products to offer people during the big time that or your spike season? So how do you plan for that?
Yeah, so typically, as you said, right now is an anomaly, right? But typically, what used to happen is April, May used to be the IPL. So we used to make sure everything is running, everything is perfect, and and we're in a way semi operations mode during that time. Then, as soon as IPL ends in May, June is actually when we start thinking about the next IPL. So we actually sit together, everyone from tech, product design, marketing, all the teams come together and we start thinking about what are the things that we want to improve incrementally, right? What are the things that we will need to improve? Like, for example, for a while, every year we were growing 4x. So the traffic on the users were growing 4x. So we needed to make sure that all our systems are ready to handle that kind of traffic. So we used to identify all the systems that we need to maybe rewrite or improve to make sure that we can handle the scale. Then we also make some big bets. Okay, now, for example, a couple of years ago we decided to invest in social as a platform. So our app today supports groups that users can join a group, chat with each other, challenge each other. So that's one feature that we launched last IPL. This last IPL we actually launched gamification now, so people can have streaks into the system. And now this, and the part two of this IPL, we launched rewards and awards, basically based on certain active engagement within the app. So June is when we actually sit together and plan for the next 9 months. And then we break it down into smaller pieces for execution. But yes, the entire focus is to make sure that our app is in the best condition possible. All the new features are launched. And that's what brings the entire team together, right? They're very excited about it. IPL is like a festival season at Dream 11. So we keep working very, very hard around the year for 9 whole months. And then at IPL launch at April, everything goes to the system and everyone is very excited to see this huge engagement, so many users trying our products. So that's how it works.
So you mentioned how during the pandemic you also created a couple of new games. Um, uh, So, is that something that you think is an opportunity that more and more people actually staying inside their homes, looking for ways to entertain themselves? Do you think you guys can emerge as a platform that holds people maybe on a daily basis, brings them back every day for a larger number of users? I'm sure there are users who come in daily, but to become a go-to place where people can entertain themselves. And are you thinking of products on those lines also?
Absolutely, right. So we that's why we try to make our app as engaging as possible. So we had only like a contest on a leaderboard earlier, but now we are trying to add more and more ways of interacting with the leaderboard. So for example, recently we added inside the leaderboard we added a tab for scorecard. So you no longer, when you're inside Dream 11, you don't need to go to another app to actually you know look at the scorecard towards the score, because the scorecard is right there. We have the ability of, we created a commentary section, so now we give you a run by run commentary of that game within the same place. We also give you statistics. Now over the next few months, what we're going to do is we're going to add a lot of ability for you to interact with the leaderboard to see, how did your ranks change, what are the teams, which players are being picked by us, so more engagement options within the apps. This is within the gameplay. And our gamification efforts and our social efforts, when we're creating groups and all, those are also again meant to engage users. So we want people to be able to stick with the app, spend more time on it, enjoy the entire experience, watch the sport also, and enjoy the experience while playing it. And it's like, again, fits into our motto of like making sports better. And we want people to actually try more and more sports. We want to help develop the entire ecosystem of sports within India, right? Beyond cricket also. So, and at the dream sports level, we are actually trying to fill in the pieces as well, right? So we have fan code, for example, which is into like content engagement and shop, etc. So we do merchandising there. So then we have other plays within the dream sports ecosystem. We have sports travel under dream set go. So we are trying to fill in those pieces also. And the eventual vision is to create one single sports technology platform that integrates all of this. And as a sports fan, you just come in, and then everything that you need to do around a sport or fitness kind of thing, it'll be available for you in that ecosystem.
Amit, I'm picturizing your team as a bunch of 300 nerds sitting and coding on gaming. Or is it actually like that? I'm sure you need a lot of people who are very, very passionate about these sports to add in that layer. Otherwise, there will be a disconnect between the users and the product, right? So, how do you fix that? How does the sporting culture or the sportsman spirit come into your company?
So we try to inculcate that spirit of sports fans, right? So our conference rooms, as you can see, is sports themed. We have a green turf in our office that actually makes it look like a stadium, right? All our terminologies, everything, or an analogies, whenever we want to send a message to the team, we use sports analogies, right? So that doesn't mean that everyone here needs to have be a sports fan or has to have. Some people are like okay with the sport, they're not that too much, but majority of the people are. And our goal is to make sure that even the ones that who are not, once they spend some time with us here, they become sports fans, right? Because see, one thing is for certain, if you understand sports, if you love sports, it's easier to think like a user and try to do things, right? But it's not a mandatory requirement, but it's highly encouraged. So it's like a bonus for us to have like a sports fan join us. But overall, we have a very diverse team. Different people come with different backgrounds, different skill set, all parts of the country, and they all work together in small teams. Are very passionate about the entire product and really, really want to like build something really good.
But are you looking to hire somebody like Navjot Singh Sidhu to sort of be the evangelist who is like going from one bench to the other, egging on the people? Ki, karo, kuch karo. No.
Thankfully, I think we have a lot of homegrown evangelists who are very passionate. Some of the people have been with us for a very long time. Some of the new folks are very, very enthusiastic, right? So our product design, like all of us, we work very together, and we are very driven actually. We have a lot of brand ambassadors who go out, and you must have seen all the ads, who go and vouch for our product and talk about us. So that gives us a lot of motivation as well. So we'll keep investing in that. But internally, I think we are already very driven, and we're very happy the way we operate, and we just want to do better and better. And there's a long list of features that I really really want to launch with my team, and really exciting times ahead for all of that.
With one last question, I know tech companies are not always very open about talking about future, but I'll ask you this thing. Every company, every CTO has this one small feature maybe which is there and people love using it, but that is something that you have really had to burn the midnight oil for, and seeing it successful is something that gives you a lot of satisfaction. Is there something like that your fans should be looking out for the next time they use it? Like, okay, this is what went behind it.
Sure. I can actually tell you one of my most favorite anecdotes at Dream 11. So, I don't know if so people who've been using our app for a while know that maybe like 2 to 3 years back, our deadline of till when you could create your teams or join a contest used to be 1 hour before the match starts, right? So you didn't really have a lot of information. So a lot of people used to like join contests beforehand and create teams and forget, right? And then suddenly, very close to the IPL, internally within the management, we all sat together and decided, it'll be a great idea if we can actually extend it to match time, because users will get so much more information and they're right there, right? Like imagine the enthusiasm in 30 minutes before an IPL game. Everyone is sitting in front of the television. That's when they engage with the game. They know who's playing, who's not playing, so they can make informed decisions about their teams. They can actually engage with the product at the right time. So users love this feature, right? Now for us, this completely changes in which the traffic patterns that we receive. Earlier on, we used to get, all the teams used to be created earlier. The contests used to be distributed, contest joins used to be distributed over like 1 to 2 days. But because of this feature, a lot of the traffic that we started getting gets concentrated in the last 30 minutes, and the user behavior completely changes. Now everyone comes back to edit their team in the last 10-15 minutes. Now everyone waits till the last minute to make sure the match is happening, who's paying to join the contest. So our systems were designed for a very different kind of behavior, and we had like less than a month to actually go in and make whatever changes necessary. From business sense also, we thought it made sense for us. For our users, we believe that it was a fantastic feature. So we actually all huddled and worked very, very hard for those 4 to 5 weeks. And that was one of the toughest 4 to 5 weeks to get ready for it. But we actually pulled it off smoothly. Users didn't even realize that there was any, we had to do so much without it, but they loved the feature. But yeah, that is one. So to actually change that deadline, the entire thing, all the changes were done in 4 to 5 weeks. And the team that I have, they've been fantastic. They were a much smaller team then, and they pulled it off. So yeah, kudos to them.
Thank you, Amit, for a fascinating conversation on one of the most popular tech products in the country. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely talking to you.
So, this is Nandagopal Rajan again saying goodbye from our own devices. We are everywhere you listen to your podcast. Come back next week.